My name is Steven, and one day I was with my close friends. I went on an exciting journey. It all started on a promising day when my friends and I decided to go into the enchanting embrace of mountain nature, where a hidden cave was waiting for us. Inspired by a shared sense of wonder, we packed our bags, making sure we had everything we needed for the upcoming trip. The four of us, Oliver, Jimmy, Jack and I, split into pairs and set off in 2 cars. It was a long journey and it was nearing evening. The sun was beginning to sink, casting a golden glow over the landscape. Oliver and I led the column, and our car sped forward through the vast steppe expanses that surrounded us. The fatigue of the long journey penetrated into our bones, prompting us to seek a break. Realizing that we needed to regain our strength, I suggested that Oliver take a break, at least for a moment, to stretch his legs and enjoy the unearthly beauty of the setting sun. He quickly agreed, and with a light movement steered our car to the curb. Stepping out into the fresh air, we were mesmerized by the kaleidoscope of colors that painted the sky overhead. Our reverie was interrupted when Jack and Jimmy's car pulled up next to us. We exchanged smiles and stories about our journey, taking advantage of the moment. We decided to set up camp overnight to rest and recuperate a little before continuing the hike at dawn. The collective fatigue in the air made it easier to make a decision. With unanimous agreement, we accepted the idea of a quiet night's rest, knowing that time is on our side and it's not worth rushing. We set up our tents, built a fire, had a little dinner, and went to our tents. At night, a strong wind began to blow. Our tents swayed in the wind, and then they were completely blown away in search of shelter from the relentless wind. We took shelter in our cars. In the morning, after waking up from a stormy night, we tried to find tents, but we found only one, and the second one was blown away by the wind. We collected everything that survived and continued on our way. By the evening we were at the place. We set up a surviving tent, lit a fire, cooked dinner. We sat around the campfire and discussed the plan for the next day. Jack said that he was here about 5 years ago and saw a cave here. He showed the entrance to the cave and presumably the exit from it on the map. We were looking forward to the next day. The search for adventures beckoned us. As the sun began to rise, its golden rays gently caressed our faces, stirring us from our slumber. The melodious symphony of birdsong filled the air, signaling the start of a new day. With excitement coursing through our veins, we quickly devoured a light breakfast before shouldering our backpacks, ready to embark on our journey up the majestic mountain. Our destination, a cave, tucked away amidst the rugged terrain, approximately 5 miles away. Step by step, we ascended the mountainside, each stride bringing us closer to our goal. Along the way, we encountered ancient mountain trees, their trunks adorned with emerald moss, evidence of the frequent showers that nurtured this picturesque landscape. After a couple of hours of relentless climbing, our perseverance paid off, and we finally stood before the mouth of the cave. Armed with flashlights, we bravely ventured into the darkness, our footsteps echoing against the cavernous walls. The entrance yawned wide, beckoning us further into its mysterious depths. With each step, our anticipation grew as the cave unveiled its secrets to us. The walls of the cave were a tapestry of nature's artistry. Stalactites, like frozen tears, hung from the ceiling, their delicate beauty captivating our gaze. Some were massive, their imposing presence demanding our reverence. We marveled at the intricate formations, sculpted by time and the patient caress of dripping water. As we delved deeper into the cave, the passage narrowed, forcing us to stoop and navigate through tight squeezes. The air grew colder, sending a shiver down our spines as if the cave itself whispered its secrets to us. It was an adventure like no other, a dance with darkness that ignited our sense of wonder. Mile after mile we walked forward until we reached the crystal-clear cave lake. Its serene beauty mesmerized our senses. Walking along the lake, the path ended, but on the other side of the lake we could see the continuation of the cave. We didn't know what to do. There was only one way out, and that was to swim across the lake. It was about 6 yards wide. I decided to swim across the lake first, taking a rope with me and making a rope to ferry my things across. I undressed, tied the rope around myself, and slowly lowered myself into the water. It was cold and deep. My feet couldn't reach the bottom. I reached the opposite shore, found the nearest stalactite, and tied the rope. Standing on the opposite bank and shivering from the cold, I waited impatiently for my friends to get to the other side. One by one they followed my example, each in turn braving the chilly depths. The cave was eerily quiet, with only our heavy breathing and the distant echo of dripping water. When we were all safely across the lake, we decided to take a short break. The air inside the cave felt damp and heavy, which added to the sense of foreboding in the atmosphere. We knew we had to keep going and were curious as to what lay ahead. As we went deeper into the cave, the passages became narrower and more treacherous. We had to crawl on our knees, scraping against the jagged rock formations that lined the walls. The only source of light was the beam from our flashlights, casting eerie shadows that danced across the cave walls. With each step, the air grew colder and colder, and a feeling of unease came over us. The cave itself seemed to be alive, watching us. Our footsteps echoed loudly in the narrow tunnels, reinforcing the feeling of being trapped. We were crawling through a narrow passage of the cave when suddenly the whole cave shook. I was ahead about 2 yards away. I saw the expansion of the cave. I crawled with all my strength to get out of this narrow passage. I called out to the guys to hurry up. After getting out, I helped the others. Only Jimmy remained. He crawled with all his might as soon as his hands appeared. We pulled him out, but the passage collapsed, cutting off our way back. Now the only way left for us was to find another exit of the cave. Trapped in the depths of the cave, our hopes flickered like the dim light of our lanterns. It was then that Jack proposed a desperate plan: conserve our limited resources by keeping only one lantern lit. Uncertain of how long our ordeal would last, shaking off the paralyzing fear that had momentarily gripped us, we gathered our wits and pressed forward. The eerie silence was broken by a distant, chilling howl that sent shivers down our spines. Our hearts skipped a beat as we pondered what could possibly produce such a sound in the depths of this ancient cavern. Instinctively, I reached into my backpack and retrieved a knife, holding it tightly as a precautionary measure. With heightened caution, we continued onward, our senses heightened and our eyes scanning the darkness for any signs of danger. Suddenly, a fleeting shadow darted from the corner of our vision, too quick for us to comprehend. Our hearts raced, adrenaline coursing through our veins as we assumed a defensive formation, ready to repel any potential attack. In the distance, a silhouette emerged, its form vaguely human-like yet distorted. Its ashen complexion stood out against the darkness, and it moved on all fours, its limbs contorted in an unnatural manner. We approached cautiously, our curiosity battling with our trepidation. Then, without warning, the creature emitted a haunting howl, its mournful cry piercing the air. The echoes of the creature's call echoed through the cave. Several more of the same creatures appeared from the shadows. We stood in awe, watching the macabre action unfold before our eyes. It became clear that the howl of the creature was a signal, summoning his relatives to a feast. The cave, once dense and lifeless, was now seething with the presence of these otherworldly creatures. Fear gripped our hearts as we realized what a terrible situation we were in. We were surrounded, trapped in the depths of the cave, and there was no way out. The creatures were closing in on us, their savage snarls echoing through the narrow passages. With our backs pressed against the cold wall of the cave, we stood shoulder to shoulder, our hearts pounding in our chests, our breathing quickening, and we prepared for the fight of our lives. The first creature lunged, its sharp claws piercing the air. Jack dodged, barely avoiding its deadly blows. I swung my knife at one of the creatures, and it fell lifelessly to the ground, and then I realized that they were blind and oriented only by sound. I saw a large rock on the ground, grabbed it and threw it as hard as I could. The sound of the rock falling echoed, and the creatures rushed at the sound without wasting time. We hurried away before the creatures realized what was going on. As we ran through the dark, winding cave, our hearts were pounding with fear, knowing that hungry creatures were following us. Just when hope seemed to be slipping away, a glimmer of light appeared in the distance, igniting a spark of determination in us. We raced towards the light, desperately looking for a way out. However, our relief was short-lived as we realized that the only way out was high above us, forcing us to confront the approaching creatures. Preparing for the inevitable confrontation, I offered to take the fight. The main thing that motivated us was that we found a way out of the cave. These creatures surrounded us and slowly approached us. We held our breath, trying to remain still to avoid their keen senses, but they began to sniff and search for us with relentless determination. And when the creatures came very close, a miracle happened when someone from above through a rope jack quickly grabbed the rope and started climbing to the top. Jimmy followed him. Meanwhile, these creatures sensed that something was wrong, and smelling Oliver attacked him to save Oliver. I shouted, attracting the attention of wild creatures. They chased me. Meanwhile, Oliver kicked one of them off and grabbed the rope and climbed to the top. Running in a circle, I managed to break away from them and grab the rope too. Got to the top. When we got out of the cave, exhausted and nervous, we met our unexpected savior, who turned out to be a local forester. He noticed our cars parked at the foot of the mountains and, sensing something wrong, followed our footsteps to the cave. Anticipating that we would exit the cave through another exit, he arrived just in time to witness our desperate struggle with the monstrous cave dwellers. The forester threw us a lifeline, which allowed us to traverse the steep slope of the cave and escape the clutches of the creatures below. Once on the surface, we turned around and saw the creatures scurrying restlessly at the mouth of the cave, their frantic screams reaching us. The forester explained that these creatures were an ancient race of people, long forgotten by time and evolution, hidden in the depths of the mountain. He had stumbled upon them many years ago, and had since started leaving food for them to keep them from venturing outside the cave in search of sustenance. We listened in disbelief, trying to reconcile the existence of such creatures with the world we knew. The forester's familiarity with these creatures and his nonchalance about their presence only added to the surrealness of our ordeal. Grateful for his intervention, we followed the forester back towards civilization, our steps heavy with fatigue and our minds in turmoil. The return journey was passed in silence, each of us immersed in our own thoughts, pondering the events that had taken place. When we reached the forester's hut, he offered us food and a place to rest. We accepted his hospitality, but knew that sleep would keep us awake. The images of these creatures, their twisted forms, and the primal fear they evoked would haunt us for a long time to come. In the light of day, we said goodbye to the ranger, thanking him for his help, and so ended our story, not with triumph, but with quiet, lingering anxiety. The cave, the creatures, and the forester's strange tutelage became a chapter of our lives to which we rarely returned, a story left untold, a chilling secret hidden from a world unprepared for such primal truths.